Good morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and disembodied hands, Quindy, Justin, and sometimes even a John. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? Hey, Cheesebagger with a 14-month resub on the Prime. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm back. The booster, it was just like, I didn't sleep well, I was exhausted. My arm hurt a lot. And I felt like I was coming down with a cold, like kind of achy. But now I'm back. Boing! And yeah, except for David's parents are here. So like now it's like, you got house guests and then there's noises in the morning you're not used to. And so you wake up because they get up before you do. Oh, I like my house all quiet and empty. But I can't say that because actually I like them. They're both really cool. So anyway, let's see here. We have a bust. And, maybe we'll keep the hat on for once. It'll help us kind of see kind of where our highlights and shadows should be. Because we're doing it with paint, but yes, how are you all? Good? Did you miss me? Also, my allergies are really up today, so if I have to blow my nose, my apologies in advance. A little congested. We had a lot of rain come through last night, and that's usually a trigger for me. Yes, Anne is back, Medzik. Yes. Watching paint dry that somebody else applied, right? All right, well, let us look up our recipe. That's right. We were using my new favorite, Griffin Golden Brown, and tan skin at about a 2-to-1. We wanted her to have a tan, so we pretty much just, we're going to be building highlights today, too. Ha! Medzik, you're just terrible. Like, whoever your company is, like, I don't know if I want them working on my stuff. Quest to find a mini to fit a diorama based on the Strange Companions painting. Yeah. Yeah. 2 of the 3, but not the 3rd. And Larry, I think that has some very unique critters in it. So, yeah, that could be a challenge. Maybe they need to do some heavy conversion. Coffee. Yeah. Nomad Zeke needs to stop talking about his alcoholic baked goods unless he has a food teleporter rigged up. Alrighty, so we want to do highlights, which means using more of this. So let's get our base coat mixed up. And then usually adding in a little bit of yellow, brown, and white, depending. And it really depends on the lighting. If you are using, if you're not going for sunlight, then you may want to change change how you're building your highlights. You may not want to add yellow. But we usually work off the supposition that light is warmer, especially since we're giving her such a tan. So it makes sense to go that way. Let us, 1, 2. I'm going to do 6 drops total. So that's 4 drops of 9044 tan skin and 2 drops of the Griffin Golden Brown. Interesting, crows. Yeah, or do some sculpting, right? I have my Elmore. I think my Elmore's in the other room, my big Elmore books. But I think I remember the painting. Alrighty. You could just email Jim and say, Jim, please have somebody sculpt the 3rd model of this. I'm kind of surprised he did 2 and not the 3 as a set, right? I don't know. Get my glasses going on, and then we will build ourselves some highlights. Also, I might need to get a little bit, I think I'm just going to build up highlights, and if I have to go back into shadows, I will. We also haven't decided on her hair color. We really could go anyway with her hair color, actually, with this skin tone. Although probably it's not a redheaded skin tone because she's very tan, and most redheads do not tan. So let's mix up our base. And then what we're going to do is take a little bit of this and probably, I won't use a straight yellow. You can, for the highest highlight, you can mix in a straight yellow, but a yellow brown is actually a little bit better, or one of what I like to say, like polished leather. So this goes very yellow when you thin it down or when you add white, but it looks brown in the bottle. So we're going to use, I think, this and then some white to build a highlight. Hey, Cornico. Ah, yeah, Christmas. So we're going to take some of our base tone and we're going to add in a drop of polished leather and a little bit of white. Probably a drop and a drop. I'm going to keep my base skin tone around though, because I definitely am going to need it if I need to blend or glaze with it. Whenever, when you're highlighting and your skin tone shifts a little too much, or maybe it goes chalky, glaze with your mid-tone and it will destroy the chalkiness. I finished a long time ago, but that's because I had to ship everything. All right, so let's try this. Let's do just a little bit of our polished leather. Here, I'll show you guys how yellow that looks. It's hard to see. Where's my big black base? Big black base, we need you. See how yellow that looks next to this. It's brown, but it is actually pretty heavily yellow. It's not showing so much on the camera. All right, so then we'll put a little bit of white in there, and then we'll see if I need to add more of my base color. Now, whenever you add pure white, you are going to add a lot of water, because you are immediately, oh yeah, that's decent. You want something that you noticeably see is lighter and warmer. So we can see a definite difference between these two. They're not hugely different, but they're a step probably on the grayscale, probably a step different. You want at least a step to a step and a half different on the grayscale. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about with grayscale, it's the grayscale on your color wheel. So if you have a color wheel, this is one of the most useful things on it is the grayscale values, where you can kind of hold it over the edge and kind of like look at it and see, is this lighter or darker than the color? So like you can definitely see that value 7 is too light. Value 6 is like close actually. So then you go down to value 5. Value 5 is, it's probably between a value 5 and value 6. That's 4 is definitely too dark, right? So I'm thinking it's actually a value 5. And then this one is a, usually if I have a doubt, I'll look at the one on either side and see. And this is actually between a 6 and a 7, I think. The 6 is a little dark and the 7's a little light. But it's close. So it's about a step and a half, which is about perfect. Because you want it different enough that you can build it up to be a highlight, an effective highlight. That's okay. If you were texting, we'd call it having drunk thumbs, Cornico. But since you're actually typing, it's not your thumbs that are drunk. Alrighty. So let's grab this and see what we can do with it. I'm utilizing lighting pretty strongly here. I want to really look at how my light is falling. So I'm going to face it up against my ring light here, and I'm going to take a look at where my shadows and highlights are falling. We have a bit of shadow here and here. Most of this is going to be straight up, and then we do have a bit of a shadow there. So as I bring up my colors here, I'm going to keep that in mind. I did actually notice that I have a bubble that we missed, by the way, right on her ear. Little tiny problem there. So actually I'm going to grab some gloss sealer and fill that in so that it can set while we're working on other stuff. You can use gloss sealer or regular sealer. If you want something really heavy bodied, Liquitex gloss medium is very heavy bodied gloss. I played with that the other day. Yeah, I want it to be smooth though, especially at the top of the ear. If it was somewhere like down here, I'd consider just adding an earring. Because I could totally sculpt an earring. And when I do the gloss, I tend to blend it out a little bit. But there is a hollow in her ear there, so it should hopefully help it transition a bit. Also got a little nick in the hair there. I'm going to fill that in too. I don't mind. I don't usually use the sealer treatment, but when it's just little things like this, and I'm working on a different part of the model, so I can just set up that sealer to like just go while I'm working on other stuff, I don't mind it so much. So actually what these colors are very close to, guys, is this is very close to 90-30 leather brown. And this is very close to the next one up, 90-31 tanned leather. So if you do not want to do the mixes, that would probably set you up decently. I'm going to see how opaque my paint is here. I'm going to test it. That's actually not too bad. Let's get her in focus. And in close. Hey, Inara. And Scrying Eye, good morning. Yes, happy holidays of your choice. So, we'll see. I think I need just one more drop of water in this. Like, part of me thinks I'm just getting a little bit too much texture. Though, smooth blending is out of fashion in many aspects of the hobby at this point. For skin, I still like it. This is going very, very... There we go. I'm losing my rosiness for some reason. She's looking very warm on camera today. I wonder what I need. Maybe it's all the white. Maybe I need more black in frame. She's looking very warm compared to my skin tone. She's looking very yellow. Not sure why, but she is actually more of a natural. Let's see if I back out. Yeah, see there? Maybe we'll stick around this then. That's the skin tone I'm actually... For some reason, the camera, the color balance is just wanting to shift when we get too close. Toddlers are dangerous. So I'm just kind of... I'm starting here because this is a nice flat surface. So it lets me kind of play with this highlight color and see if it's too much. If I need to thin it. I'm going to grab my base color again. I can do some wet blending or some glazing if I need to. I'm pretty persnickety about female skin tones and getting them smooth. I do see that I have a little bit of it, like a piece of lint that got stuck in the paint. When you get that happening, I just usually use a knife to kind of scrape it. You can usually take it off without leaving too much of a divot. And you want to refill. Now, if you do make a serious divot in the paint and you can see that it's going to leave a texture, that's when you would take your gloss sealer or your primer or what have you, and you would fill that divot and then paint over it with your base. Hello, Raiders. Miniatures Den. Luca hitting us with the huge raid. Hello, Luca. And company. I am Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. Many of you have already encountered me at some point or another because Luca raids us. He's nice enough to raid us various times. We are working on this bust today. I'm very excited to be working on this, although Reaper is out of stock on it. We're not sure on the status of any reprint runs because it was a ReaperCon special. But we really like her. She's a pirate bust, obviously. Angelica Fairweather. Sculpted by Jean. I'm excited because since I only paint Reaper models on this stream, I couldn't do a bust, really, up until this point. Oh, yeah. Yes, we were just discussing how toddlers are dangerous, by the way, just in case you wonder what Chad is doing. But yeah, so I'm working on highlights. I blocked in shadows in accordance with the hat, which is actually removable, but you can see kind of the shadow on the face there. So I tend to paint in sections, which is weird, but it's kind of how I roll, just because I like the feeling of completing like stage by stage. So that is why it's set up like this. Now I'm kind of trying to figure out her anatomy here, because I feel like this is the hollow of her throat and the collarbone is here. Yeah, that's about right. We were talking about Luca then. Yes, exactly. Toddlers are dangerous. Now. I have to be nice to Luca. He just gave me a big fat raid. I know, that's boring. Yeah, I feel like her collarbones are up here. I feel like she needed to... I feel like this divot here is not where I want it. So I'm going to actually paint over it. I feel like the hollow of her throat needs to be about here. Sometimes you get sculpting artifacts or casting artifacts. You get maybe a little piece of like area that's sunken more than you think. Although some people do have that right around the collarbone area. They've got more kind of a dip in the chest there. So we're using thin paint. We mixed our skin tone custom using a mixture of, we wanted a tan for sure, so we used a mixture of tan skin and Griffin Golden Brown for this. And Griffin Golden Brown is from one of the Fast palettes. I think it's the Adventuring set. I don't remember. Quindy remembers. Oh, nice, Stefan's World. Good. Yeah, Rocky's cute. You gotta love tiny dragons. I'm thinking about painting a miniature for my nephew next year, Christmas. Because I got some good Christmas ones with my order this year. So I have plenty of time to get them done for next year. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out, because I've got, like I said, a little bit of an anatomical oddness here where I've got a little bit of a hollow at this area further down than I would have expected it. So I'm just dealing with that and kind of trying to figure stuff out. There's also a shadow that would be cast on the skin here, which is why I'm avoiding this little area here, because this would definitely... Oh, wait, sorry. I was thinking incorrectly. I need to actually get a little closer on that because we've got light coming straight down, but the hat... Yeah, that's about right. I want to leave a little bit of a shadow here. You always want to think about the position of your light. And if you're like me, you don't naturally have like kind of a grasp of it, so I have to stop and think a lot. And sometimes I get mixed up. So don't feel bad if you have trouble visualizing lighting. It took me a long time. Color is my superpower. Like, I can do color schemes and spin them off my head and make every color look good together pretty effortlessly. But when it comes to lighting, that's something that I need to actually stop and think about when I do it. My fiance is the opposite. David is really good with light. Doesn't even have to think twice to know exactly where his highlights and shadows should be with any given light source and OSL. But he's more challenged with color schemes, so we can help each other. So I've got that golden light coming there now. Hey, Nora. It's, it's a weird area though. When you do scars, you're doing freehand, Bill. And yeah, I could make a scar through here, although then you'd wonder how she was still alive. I'm not a huge fan of scars on models. Like, I can do them, but I feel like a lot of time they're overdone. There are some models they really fit on. And then there are some models where I look at it and I'm like, why? And because it's freehand, I don't know that I'd want to distract the eye more toward this area. I mean, as it is, there's a lot of detail going on here. Like, scars are kind of like tattoos for me. They serve kind of the same function. they're freehand that attracts your attention to a particular space on the model that maybe otherwise would have been boring. And presumably they say something about the character of the model. Because, you know, they have big scars, which is not the norm for most of us. So I tend to use scarring more in areas that I would use tattoos. And I wouldn't use tattoos on this figure because she's got so little skin and because she's got so much other detail. So I tend to do tattoos on models. Like, we're considering doing one on our ogre. This guy. Like, we'll definitely do, I think we'll do a tattoo on him, but we'll do it on the back. And the reason we'll do it is just, there's not a lot back here, right? It's just musculature. And, you know, in the front, we've got this lovely light and shadow play going on and his expression and all of that. But in the back, we don't have all of that. So it makes sense for me to do like scars or tattoos, that kind of thing, back here and maybe even up onto the shoulder. But once I get to the front of the model, I want all of the expression to be like here, and I don't want to distract by putting a tattoo down here or you know, elsewhere. I'm already going to have like a bunch of texture here, and that's going to also make the eye like travel around the model. So you think about that stuff when you're thinking about putting a scar or a tattoo or anything like that on the skin. It does draw the eye, and so you can easily distract from like more interesting or important parts of your model for doing it. Like, if you really want people, if you want to give her a really cool expression and awesome eyes, say, and so you want people to be looking at her face, definitely don't do a tattoo or a scar down here. Yeah, I wouldn't do it just for what I outlined. For the reasons I outlined. So I've got a shadow there. I feel like I need to mix up a shadow. I'm definitely feeling like I need to mix up my shadow color so that I have it around. And this is a mixture. I see. So for this one, I actually went with breech leather, tan skin, and a little bit of russet brown. So I'm going to actually mix that up. And I'm going to maybe toss a little bit of something else into it. And then russet brown, which is our burnt umber color for MSP. If you like burnt umber and you cannot lie, then consider using some russet brown, $91.99. Alrighty, and you know what? I'm going to add a little bit of blue to that, actually. There. So I am actually adding some blue to cool down the shadow. I'm going to experiment with it. So my ratios, I've got that tiny bit of blue, speck of blue, double speck of blue. And then otherwise I'm using my previous mix with a little less russet brown. And the reason is I decided I wanted to cool down some shadows. So then we're adding that little bit of blue. I'm going to add in some drops of water to thin that down. If there's no rich leather, is it really an hand mini? Was it the formulas that came up with the number scheme? With my, oh, you mean with the portraiture book that we were using? I'm putting the blue in there for that reason. Ooh, that blue is really taking it down. It is graying it out big time. That's because ultramarine has such a huge load of pigment. That's interesting, though. I think I need a little bit more warmth, so I am going to add in my russet. Just a little bit. Let's tune that. There we go. It's a little bit warmer. But still cool. There. All right. And I think I'm going to mix up some separate russet. For the Reaper bottles. Oh, no. As far as the numbering system, like, I created the first 54 colors in each line, bones and regular, were done like as a self-contained line. And so everything is organized. Like, you go reds, oranges, yellows, green, blue, purples, and everything's in order. But after that, Ed wanted to keep putting out more paint. And so we just We just numbered them as the colors were created. So after that, after the first 54 colors, there is no rhyme or reason. It's actually the thing that really bugs me about the line. I like feel like, and I probably wouldn't have been very good at this in the beginning, but now if I ever create another paint line, my first question for the creator, for the company, is going to be, how many eventual colors do you plan on? And then I'm going to plan the whole thing like around that kind of. Yeah, I mean, you do kind of a set, right? So that your first 54 colors are kind of a give you everything you need kind of thing. And then, but then after that, when you add on, you really can't do anything, you know. Like it's a weird thing because you have to put out a complete set for your first release, and you're not going to release 300 colors all at once, generally. You know. So I don't know. Probably the best way to do it now would be to release a core set and then release, just like the fast palettes, to do the rest of the line like in fast palette format, where you've got augmented, you know, they're just augmentations and additions to the main line, but they're in a rhyme and reason. Like you have some method behind your madness. So I'm looking forward to using this cool shadow. Oh no, the hat! I took it off once and now it's like, now it just wants to fall off. Come on, you. Stick on, hat. Kind of decided I wanted it in place today. Oh, and I need to go check on my gloss sealer to see if it filled the pit that we were trying to fill. So I'm going to check this color. Now the shadow color is very blue, very grayish, but it's going in the shadows. And it's also being painted in thin layers over the skin tone, which is going to change the color. So it's not actually going to look this grayed out when you paint it over this warm skin. It's going to kind of change, right? Because it's a little transparent. I've thinned it down. So you don't get as quite as cold, not unless you really build it up dark. And you can always go back and get your base color and do some mixes. Right. And the problem with doing it that way and trying to release that in groups as a line is then like your first release is all red, oranges, and yellows, right? Like if you have a huge line of paint, your first 50 bottles are going to be all in the, you know, all in that range. I did wish we could kind of renumber for the 300 rack, like reorder everything to put the reds, oranges, yellows, make everything in order and all similar colors grouped together. Because I think one, it would have helped sales, because then if people wanted a brown, they would have to look further down on the rack, and then they would see all the browns, and they would choose maybe a different one than they otherwise would reach for just because it was up at their eye level. It's like enhanced choice architecture, right? But I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever be able to design another paint line. So these are just my own personal musings. Because the thing is, I would do it in a heartbeat and do my own boutique line, but then I'd have to keep like inventory and stuff. And not only do we not have the room, you know, we just, it's just like, I have a garage, but it's a small garage. It does not have room for a paint lab. And I would hate keeping inventory and paying taxes on inventory. It's just something that like I personally don't want to have to muck with. So it's unlikely that I would do my own boutique set of paint, even though I have all sorts of ideas now about how I would do it better. No, I would like things to make sense. That's all. I like things to make sense. I think I need one more layer in this ear to fill in that little gap. There. We were using gloss sealer to fill in a little divot that I noticed too late in her ear. And a little bit, there's one right here on her hair too. Julie said we'd talk about it. So, the hat just does not want to stay on today. All right, I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you, hat. We'll just leave you in frame so it's obvious that you go on there. But yeah, it's just, I'm not going to even move on it around the holidays. Nothing is getting done. on the holidays. Crows. I have to get through the holidays. Like, I have to travel still with my family. It's just like, there's no way I'm initiating any new projects at all at this time of year. No way. We'll think about a pokey next year. So I'm just accentuating the shadow here that's sculpted in. I'm still getting a little bit of shift in my camera. I don't know why it wants to go so orange. Camera, what are you doing? It was so good a second ago. Like, I zoomed out and see we're okay again. What the heck, camera? What the heck? You should have this color all along. You don't normally give me this problem. There. For now. Oh, it would be my dragon head for painting big, Pendrake. It would be a dragon-headed pokey tool. It's my painting big dragon. That's why Julie would have to do it. Because dragons. Yeah, I know, Inara. I agree. And actually, we were setting up to do that at one point. But it was like manually done, like to assign a color, each color to a family. So the new ones aren't in that tool. See, I'm cooling off my shadows a little bit here by using that mix that we made up with a little bit of ultramarine blue in it. And if I feel like I get a little too cold, I can glaze over with my original skin tone, or I can bring in more russet brown to get it less green in the shadow. Mostly I'm mucking around, and this is what I tend to do on busts, is I muck around until I have something that I look at and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want. I feel like I need a little oxide red too. Because we had some more red tones in her skin, and I don't want to lose that, especially not since I'm putting in this really cool shadow. But skin has a lot of different colors in it. I mean, that's why the masters, when you look at like Frazetta, you get a lot of color. Now, tan skin and darker skins tend not to show as much blue and green, like different colors, because the skin is less translucent. As it gets darker, it gets less translucent. I need oxide red. I go by a group of colors, Eric. I just do all my reds in a bag, all my oranges in a bag, all my yellows in a bag. Or in the case of my drawer, I have my drawer here to pull out that has all the colors that I tend to use on a very frequent basis. And likewise, I've got like little boxes, little sectionals in this drawer that divide it into red, orange, yellow, green, blue, turquoise, purples. My purples and my reds actually live together. But I find that's the most useful. Don't do it by number, because we didn't actually use like a rhyme or a reason when we did those numbers. So I would not go by number, just because I feel like it could have been organized better that way. The only reason to go by number is if you're me and you have an encyclopedic memory of all of the SKUs and you know exactly where to look to find things. Otherwise, I recommend going by color, by general hue. Then classify them as you would use them, Eric. So if you look at a color and it's like a reddish brown, ask yourself, would I use this more for leather, or would I use this more as a base color for cloth? And if it's more of a leather color, class it with the browns. So by hue and then by usage is what I would say would be the most useful way to do it. I class my ruddy leather with my browns because I know that it is a leather color or something I will use with my browns. So, okay, so we've got a bunch of different hues going on now, and they're really lovely. So these are our skin tone hues. Let me see if I can get, where's my big base? Where did I put my base? Ah, oh, there it is. It's hiding. Now you can see them. So we've got some beautiful colors here. This is our base color. This is russet browns. These are the two like kind of uniques. And then this one is used to build all these other colors. So I've got a warm reddish shadow. I've got a cool shadow that actually has a little bit of ultramarine blue in it. And this one has a bit of polished leather and white in it. And the polished leather is very yellow, so it takes us up warmer. It's getting a little separated at this point because I haven't mixed it up and I put a lot of water in it. Yeah, that makes it a little harder, but I mean, the way I deal with that is that I have my drawer right next to me that my favorite colors are in, the ones I reach for all the time. And then my box over there, everything is organized into Ziploc bags by color. And those are the colors that I still like, but that I do not use frequently. So I've probably got about 80 or 90, maybe even 100 bottles next to me, colors that I use a lot on stream. And frankly, if I really wanted to, I could probably trim that down to 50. And so that keeps it manageable for me because then I've always got the colors that I usually reach for. And then if I need something else, I just go look for the appropriately colored bag and I can find it. So, because I find it like you can get a lot of choice paralysis if you have too many options. And that's why I do this drawer abbreviated. And then all the other stuff is just, yeah, I just deselected them manually. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know if that family of colors thing is updated for things like Minotaur hide crows. I'm not certain. Yeah, my Hearthas died long ago. They just get too gritty over time. I held on to my salmon color for a long time because I really loved it. But I just hate pots because eventually the paint gets a lot of grit in it and then it's not usable. I do have like one pot paint that I still use. That's one of the old Games Workshop's metallics that is not made anymore and that is worth its weight in gold. But that is the only one. And I try to be very careful with it, but all right, so more highlights. Let's move all of our pretty colors back and keep working here. Okay, good. Thanks, Chris. So you can sort by family on the website then, on the Reaper website. But yeah, I used to use a few Partha paints back in the day because I worked at a game store and we carried them back when they were still in print. All right, now let's see here. I feel like it's like I'm trying to work out my colors down here. In case you're wondering why we haven't touched the face yet, trying to work out my colors down here, especially this new cold shadow, so that I can kind of know what I'm doing when I go up there, and if I figure out if I like this highlight or not. So I'll experiment because this is a big flat area and it's easy to repaint. It's not easy to repaint the face when I've got a lot of work into it. So that is why we are kind of messing around down here. And also I'm just kind of trying to nail down the anatomy, where things are. Like I said, the collarbone, have a little bit of irregularity here that we have to deal with. You guys can kind of see it. It's kind of a little shadow there. I'm going to be putting a lot of highlights on there to cover over. Hi, Green Oaks. We mixed a lot of pretty colors. And I'm messing with highlights. We were just talking about paint organization systems. But yeah, with too much paint, I definitely do a dual organization system. It's out of sight, out of mind for most of it, because I find that if I have a very cluttered painting area, I just feel tired and I don't want to work at it. So I take steps to keep everything nicely organized, but most of my paint doesn't need to be right here with me. I can always haul my, if I want to use this slightly different color selection when I start a model, I can always haul my paint box out and look through my greens or my blues or my whatevers and choose one that I don't normally use if I feel like it. But most of the time I'm choosing colors at the beginning of the model, and then I don't need all that paint all around me from that point forward. Yeah, I never got into polyester. A lot of the historical painters near me were into polyester, but I was not. It is okay, Green Oaks. David's parents arrived last night, so we have house guests. Which is weird. It's weird to be in my house and have other people. It's very odd. I'm so used to nice, the whole house being quiet in the morning, and then this morning it was not quiet because there were other people. I'm going to have to build another highlight here soon. But I don't want to go too yellow. So the risk here is you can definitely go too yellow with your highlights. So you kind of have to watch it. So, okay, I'm liking how this is going right now. I still feel like that shadow's a little dark. So I'm going to glaze with my midtone. That's the problem with doing a cool shadow, is that you can easily, it can get very, where it sticks out like a sore thumb. So sometimes you have to glaze because I still want the shadow. Just don't want it that strong. So glazing with midtone is something I do a lot on skin tones. And that was a spot glaze, so I just put it over the neck. Because it's the midtone, I can do that because it's, it's really going to blend in just fine with everything else around it, which is based off of the midtone. GW chainmail in the Hex bottle, Pendrake. It was probably the best, one of the best metallics. It's the same as the old bolt gun metal that people are so sad is gone. But the flake is definitely not non-toxic, but it's just got great qualities to it. It's super smooth. It's very shiny. It's a nice metallic. I use it to base for my silver a lot. Was the one thing I felt like that iteration of Games Workshop paint really did well. Yeah, I have it around here somewhere. I think I just uncovered it the other day. David covets it. He knows how good it is. All right, so let's bring in this yellow. Let's mix it up and hit this spot up here. Start working on this side of the face and on the chin. Now, because of the hat and this other side of the face being in shadow, we're really, we don't have much room for highlights over here. We pretty much got this side of the face and the ear, and we won't use this warm highlight on the lower part of the face. This is where we're talking about temperature bands on the face. Now, if she didn't have the hat on, we would normally have the forehead be quite light. But because of the hat, the forehead mostly stays dark, just a little bit of highlight way over there. And we've got rosy tones all through the middle. This is temperature bands, so gold, red, and blue. So you want warmer and lighter here, and then when you get down to around here, then you're in the pink zone, but the lower part of the face should be cooler, even on women, which with women usually means I just leave it kind of where it was. Like I don't bring up a really warm highlight on the lower part of the face except on the chin. And that will automatically, because you're not adding red tones and you're not adding yellow highlights, that'll automatically keep this lower part of the face cooler, but not to the point where on a guy where you'd use that technique to suggest stubble or something like that. It's very easy to make male busts have that cool shadow along the jawline, because it'll, even if you make it a little strong, it'll just read as stubble. I'm gonna cool down that area below the lower lip a little bit. Depends on usage, Steven's World. It depends on what you're doing. I like the Vallejo Model Air Chrome, but I only use it for the highest highlights, for micro abrasions and stuff. I wouldn't use it as a base coat. I don't like it as a base coat. So it's metallics, you really have to think about how you're going to use it. I like actually the old original Reaper metallics for the base color, and the Scale 75 metallics is pretty good. I haven't tried the new GW metallics at all, but metallics throughout the industry are going to be very similar, and only the base will be different. So whether it's a more heavy-bodied base or a lighter-bodied base is the only question. I'm going to add a little bit more of my base color to this. So it really is like, what are you using it for? Like, whenever you ask that question, whenever you say, what's the best blah, chances are you won't get a one-size-fits-all answer, because there's all sorts of ways to use a paint. And some paints will excel at highlighting or glazing or, at underpainting, or, there's all sorts of ways you can use a paint. From thick to thin applications. Some are going to be beautiful at base coating and give you a lovely, strong one-coat base coat, but then you try to do anything else with them and they're not as good. So they probably use the same flake, they've just got a different body, Shadow Raven. And again, then you ask, because they're probably using mica. Like, I can almost guarantee they are. As with an artist line, I can almost guarantee the flake is mica. So it's probably got the same flake, but it has a different base, and so the base gives it a different body and feel and coverage. And when you say best, you have to actually elucidate on that, Shadow Raven. Best how? Best base coat? Best highlighting? Best detailing? What makes it the best? Because metallics, just like any paint, can be used for a lot of different things. So we're going to stipple a little bit up here, guys. And if you can get a really fine stipple on skin, it can help make it look natural because of the pores in the skin. So if you can suggest that texture just a little bit. You don't want much of it, or it'll just look like you've got a speckly face. So often I would glaze. This is where I feel like I didn't get them out today, but the Russian brushes, the Rublev, I think they really do a great job when it comes to like really, really fine texture. So I mixed a little bit more of our base skin into this because I felt like it was just a little yellow, and I'm liking it a lot more now. Gonna get the nostril there. The underside of the nostrils tend to be pink. Yeah, that would be Cornico. That does sound funny. You have a magic mountain. You have a fairy mountain. Fairy dust. All right, let's get the chin, the top of the chin as well. All right, so you got a little bit of shadow there that I wiped out. Because we would have a shadow on this side of the chin, so we're really just like focusing kind of on that side. We have to remember that we do have shadow on this side. This is a rounded surface, so the highlight is going to be rounded, so you got to make your shadow kind of rounded as well. Okay, so lots of colors and it covers well and is smooth. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured you meant. For me, best metallic, the criteria that I use to judge it involves, it definitely involves the base, because some bases will take a wash and numerous washes better than others. And so I'm definitely judging based on how well does it act when I try to put glazes and washes over it, and when I try to build up texture, how well does that base react to that? I don't really care about initial coverage, because I'll put down a dark color and I find I can make any metallic cover decently at that point if I put down the correct base coat. So for me, then I'm looking at also, can I do micro detail with this? Is when I thin it, does it still cover? Can I use it, to bring up small details? How good is it at that? Stuff like that. So that's why I find it difficult to answer a question of like, what is the best metallic? Is like, there are so many different things you can do and different factors, and no one paint will do it all. This is why when I use metallics, I typically use a mix of them. You guys usually see me do everything with Reaper on the stream because, well, this is a Reaper stream. When I do metallics for myself, I use a mixture of brands. I'd still use a lot of Reaper, especially for the first coat, unless I'm using like the silver from GW. But then when it comes to building up other like layers, then I'll sometimes switch depending on what I'm doing. Oh yeah, of course you can, but be careful about ink sturgeon because they will bleed. So like if you do a yeah, well, it's just practice, right? It's testing and practice. You're right, Steven's World, you're exactly right. Just I'm just to experiment and see what works for you, right? So what happens with ink is that normally on metallics you're okay with inks unless you're using a paint with like pigment in it to highlight, with a lot of pigment in it to highlight. So like if you were using, say, a pearl white with a little bit more white in it to highlight a silver where you'd mixed in like a purple ink, what would happen is that white highlight would actually probably lose out and become like lavender, and you'd lose the sharpness of it because the ink would bleed. So if you use Daler Rowney or other acrylic inks, you should avoid that problem. And then you can use clear brights to mix great metallics too. Just use like a metal medium or use pearl white if you want a silk or satin kind of more delicate color, and just do that. But yeah, you can totally, mix any paint with metallic. People used to use demi-metallics all the time, where they would mix regular colors with metallics to move them. That's how we make metallic paints. We just add pigment to metallic flake. So right, exactly. Well, and it depends on how you're using your metallics. With me, if I'm doing metallics, I'm doing a lot of layered weathering on them usually, which not everybody, that's not necessarily what you're going to be doing for your project, especially if you've got something like very clean and sci-fi. So that's why I say it's always, I always ask when people say X is the best, or they ask what's the best, I always qualify it, because it's like, it really depends on the project. It really does. And what techniques you're using with your metallics or with any paint. So I'm adding just a little bit of highlight going back along the jaw, but not a lot. I don't want to warm it up. We've got that nice light falling there now, though. I'm happy with the light there on the cheekbone. I feel like I want to glaze a little bit more down here. I got a little yellow on her chest, and I can definitely see it. So I'm going to take our base color, make a glaze with it, do a heavy glaze over her. Whenever you feel like you've gone a little too far in one direction, and in this case I changed my highlight color, I added in more of my base skin tone to it to take the yellow down, but I'd already experimented on the chest area with it, so that means this is now reading as warmer than that. So I'm going to take up a lot of glaze, and I'm just going to paint it over the entire thing with my base color. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush, take the water off of it, and pull off all of the excess fluid. And I might need to rinse, and because I did such a big section, I could probably also grab a bigger brush. We'll grab my Raphael. And that will slurp off paint a little bit more efficiently because it's bigger. And you've got to get it, remember, before it starts to dry. But because I put on so much glaze, I have a long time. That's the good thing about really loading your glaze on. And the bad thing is then you have to slurp off a lot of it. But if you're doing a big area like this, it will take you can see how wet it still is. You can take a long time and not have to worry. You're going to be just fine. You've got so much time to take off that excess fluid. Yeah, I would just use I would add some clear purple to pearl white if you want a lavender metallic, or you could try a De La Rowney ink, purple ink with it. The ink is going to make it more see-through. So, whereas using like a paint like clear purple is going to make it a little bit less shiny, but you can bring that back up with highlights. So, and you can also just put a gloss on it. Put a layer of gloss sealer over it, and that'll reshine. Yeah, that's what there was a guy who was pretty famous in the UK, Jakob Rune Nielsen. He won several Golden Demons using the inks over metallics technique, colored inks. His stuff looked gorgeous. He did Chaos Nights and some other stuff where a bunch of like color in the metal made sense. I've got a little bit of lint here. I do not like you, lint. And I've still got a little bit of dampness there, so I need to grab a brush and take those flakes off of there. There we go. Luckily, again, everything is still wet, so I can get away with that, but I just made it drier by scraping up that paint. So I need to halt and let everything dry. Yeah, it'll make it a little less shiny, but like I said, then you can mix in more pearl white straight into that lavender color to build highlights and use real, just straight pearl white for your final highlight, and it should come up just nice and shiny. And if you really need it to shine a little bit more, then I'll use a thin layer of our gloss coat. Like the Reaper Gloss Sealer is really good for this because it'll give you a real thin coat and should just kind of reactivate your shine a little bit. Alrighty, that's a little bit, yeah, now her face is still reading like different because she's got this dark and she's got the red tones. I need to add a little bit of those rosy tones into her skin down here because it's quite flat. Although most of the time the chest area on humans, because you're really close to the bone up here, the breastbone, it is going to be paler, so there's not as much rosiness there. I think I am going to do little touches though. So I'm going to take my red oxide mixed with my base skin tone and add in those touches. Now, actually, I'm going to go and see if this ear is okay. Hello, Marble. Yeah, we filled in our divot. Perfect. It's nice and smooth now, see? Sweet. Yeah, when Kiri was around, I got Kiri hair on everything. Now it's just me. It's just me shedding. I can't blame the dog anymore. When we get a new puppy, there will be fur everywhere. Much fur. Much fur and getting up earlier, although I'm definitely going to train the puppy to let me sleep in. There we go. Yeah, I'm happier with this now. All right. So yeah, the really fine stippling to suggest pores and texture. I'm going to bring in a little bit of this red down here. But the really fine, yeah, stippling texture is like the texture you would normally use on skin. Like if you're going to do texture on skin, that's what you normally would do, would be the stippling. But you have to, even on busts, you've got to make it really fine on things with like really huge pores or really like wrecked skin, like radioactive mutants and, you know, stuff like that, where you can get a little heavier with the texture and it makes sense. But on like women, especially younger women, you're not going to see much of it. Just a little hint is enough. That's what my brother and his family have. They've got a golden doodle, with the poodle part being a miniature poodle rather than the standard poodle. So he's smaller. All right, I need to get some more pink tones around these eyes. So, and I think I want the pink tones for the ears too. So I am going to grab my Heraldic Red, or any red. I think I used Heraldic last time though. As Anne looks there. Yeah, I learned my lesson. I don't like having two puppies. Like, that was Leo and Kiri. You have to work so hard to make them not dependent on each other and not bonded stronger to you than to each other, like stronger to each other than to you. I really am looking forward to just getting one puppy that I can work with and get a really strong, cool bond with. Because I feel like that just didn't, having two that were so close together in age really made it harder to train both. I think people underestimate that when they think about getting two puppies. They're like, oh, they'll keep each other entertained. And yeah, they will. And then they won't listen to you. But that's my my previous experience in speaking. I know a lot of people get two and they don't really care. And you know, I guess if you're just going to have them in your house and they're always going to be out together, then it doesn't matter. It matters more because we would travel with one or the other dog. And then, you know, you'd get all these behavior like problems because the other dog was used to having, you know, its friend along. And also I feel like Kiri took it way harder when Leo passed away because he'd always been there with her. There are so many Huskies in Texas that I ran into. There's a Husky breeder in North Texas. I would always see their dogs around in Denton. They're beautiful dogs, but yeah, Twisted Oma, I was always like, a Husky? Here? They just always walked them late in the day, I guess. Or early in the morning. But yeah, I kind of was like, it's a weird breed. Yeah, they spend most of the time in the AC, right? That's what I figured. See, that's the same in Texas. It's like, it's not like Texans ever go out into the environment. Air conditioning is there for a reason. But yeah. No, I don't want to try 7 dogs. See, that's my problem. I missed out. I feel like I missed out on getting like the bond I'd always wanted with Kiri until she was like late in life and she was my only dog. And I wish I would have had that all along. I'm building a pink color off of a base skin tone here. So I am adding, although the Griffin went everywhere, but it's 2 drops of tan skin, 1 drop of Griffin tan, and I've got some Heraldic Red in there. I want to build up kind of more of a blush color like around her cheeks so that I can add it to the ears. Depends on how much interaction, how much work you want to do, Shadow Raven. Dogs are a lot more work. Because you have to socialize them. You know, you have to train them. You have to, like, you know, take them outside, whereas cats, you can get away with the litter box. But some people, like me, actually, I really hate litter boxes, so I'm kind of relieved not to have a litter box. So this gave us a really beautiful color for our blush and stuff. This is 1 drop Heraldic Red. 2 drops of tan skin, 1 drop of Griffin Golden Brown. And the Griffin is what's making it a little less pink, but it's a really nice natural blush color, actually. Like it a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. I had 4 Shepherds, Stefan's World, at my peak, and it was just so much strain. taking care of all of them, plus my regular job, plus keeping the house, plus, you know, all the rest. It really ended up stressing me out. I don't think. I think that I'm good with maybe one or two. Like, we'll get a new dog, and then maybe we'll get a second. If I breed, we might keep a puppy, you know. Oh, I just noticed she has this huge earring in her ear. I totally did not even notice that before. I was all like just like distracted by the nick in it, and I didn't notice that she's got this huge ring earring. So red tones usually on the lower part of the earlobe, top of the ear, can vary with people. You can look at your own ears for reference as to whether there's more red or not. Some people have really pale ears and not much blood flow, and some people are always kind of reddish with the ears, depending on how fair your skin is, I suspect. She doesn't have a lot of fairness because she's tanned, so we are going to... Yeah, cats can be, yeah, home alone. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. It's a good thing you don't have pets, Declerman. Coyotes will hunt your cats and dogs. Oh, yeah, Leonberger. Yep, that would be a Leonberger. They're like Shilohs, actually. As far as that, Shilohs do the same. They love their cold weather. Leo and Kiri's son, Jax, used to like beg to go outside when it was like really, really cold, and then he'd just lie out in the yard in the snow. But he had a really thick coat. Definitely fall back to the Malamute behind the Shilohs. So we've got some crevices in the ear, so we're going to add some shadows to bring those out. We don't want it too dark, though, so we're going to go back and grab some of our regular skin tone. Kind of do a little bit of a wet blend here to minimize that shadow. We're keeping it, but we don't want it to be super harsh, unless it's the one right in the bottom of the ear there, where you've got the ear canal. Then you definitely need to have that darkness. Yeah, coyotes are nasty these days. Yeah, I've got a very small yard, but it's enough for a dog. Like, I don't mind walking the dog a couple times a day, so. And we have a lot of great parks around us. So my task with this new puppy, which I've never had to do before, is to actually teach her to be really good off leash, really reliable off leash. We're gonna have to work on a really reliable recall. I've never really had to do that with a dog before, but I want to take her to the big parks around here that are off-leash areas, but they're not like fully enclosed like a dog park, so I'm always paranoid my dog's going to run out into traffic. Schnauzer, Poodle, Shih Tzu. That's an interesting mix. Probably a smart little devil. And maybe a little stubborn is what I'm guessing, Grey Mouser, with that mix of breeds. Maybe not. Maybe you got lucky and didn't get the stubborn from the Schnauzer. Shih Tzus can be nice little dogs, though. I'm going to mix add white to our previous highlight color and make a lighter version of it for our skin tone. We are fast building a crap ton of skin tones here. Neurotic, huh? She got the neurotic from the Shih Tzu. Bummer. Well, you know, better than stubborn and neurotic. So we've got all these different colors. And I'm using only small touches of this like cool shadow color. Only where the darkest shadows are. So I am going to put a little bit more on her dark side of her face before we're done with the stream. I need to add a little bit more water to my base skin tone because I'm losing it. Because I've used it to build so many other skin tones that the original big puddle I built has gotten really reduced. So I'm going to just add 2 drops and 1 drop. Rebuild it a little. Yeah, because they have to deal with psycho kitties all the time. So I'm glad your cats are not psycho kitties, Karuniko. My cat was just really codependent on me. Panther, he was Mama San's son. You remember Mama San, the shop cat at Reaper. Half Siamese, quite neurotic, and just like totally dependent on me. Like I've never had a cat with that strong of a bond with me. So like when at the vet, he was okay as long as I was there. But the minute I wasn't there, things went south. Yes, we'll catch you later, Steven's World. Thanks for coming on. Always appreciate your company with the rest of the gang here. While I've got this cool shadow, I'm gonna actually use it over here because this is kind of flat over on this side. So I'm gonna use it to emphasize the really dark areas. So like the other side of the nose. Remember how I say when you've got an area in shadow, you don't necessarily add highlights, you deepen your shadows to bring out details. So we're gonna do that. Bring in the dark. So I'm gonna use this coolness, the cold blue that I added to this, to emphasize areas. Hey, Trouble, thank you. 23 months, I almost get to sing. Next month I'll get to sing. Gonna cool this off. Cool that off. Adding a lot of cool shadow here. There. Now I've got a little bit more temperature variation. It's not so flat over here on this side. It's hard to do these, like, one side of the face is in shadow thing. A lot of people just paint it normally and just don't bother with all the shenanigans I'm doing, but yeah, I feel like I can bring up this cheekbone just a little, and here. When I look, there's enough bounced light that I can bring it up just a little. Oh yeah. The whole they learned to twist around their little paws, right? They're like, I'm scared, I'm cold, I got what I want. Yeah. It's like the dogs that, like, if a dog is really smart, like if it hurts its leg, it'll learn that it got attention when it was limping, and so it'll limp even though there's no pain just to get attention. So you have to watch it. Dogs are smart. They will play you. Bring in a little more light up here. And then just again, just a little bit more over here. Gotta remember I've got the shadow of the nose there, but there is a little bit of the cheekbone. Yeah, it's already painted on, but it's a little hard to do that. Like, it's a little hard to paint that because you so badly want to highlight everything. And you can, but you need to keep it, like, toned down. Like, you need some variation, but you don't want to use your normal selection of colors. So I think actually, if I had to mix a new highlight for over here, it would be a little bit of white and that blue shadow plus some normal skin tone to give me a different color. Nope, We haven't talked about other colors. We don't even know what her hair color is yet. I was kind of gonna let the group choose hair color. What do you guys think? We're getting close to end, but we can have 12 minutes to talk about hair color. What color hair do you think? Oh, that's way light. I need to put a lot of water into that. So once we have a hair color, we have a choice. We can either choose the coat color or we can choose the hair color, because whatever we choose is going to be the first strong color on the model, and everything else works off of that. So you can choose a coat color, and then we will choose a hair color based on what will look good with that, or you can choose a hair color and we'll choose a coat color based on what looks good with that. Lots of things. And Ara wants a medium brown that doesn't go blonde. We've got auburn, we've got blue black, reddish brown is pretty much auburn. So what I'm seeing is either medium brown that doesn't go blonde, or now brown hair does get blondish highlights, so but we can, if you mean keep it brown instead of going blonde, yeah. I'm seeing a lot of reddish brown and auburn. Reddish brown essentially is auburn. But we'll let people talk about it. So we've got medium brown, blue black, or auburn. Reddish brown are the suggestions that I've seen thus far. As I highlight this little cheekbone over here. Can get kind of dicey doing these highlights over here, because you want them to blend in, but you'd have to have a whole nother. Yeah, sure. Let's do, I'm with Anara on that actually. Let's do a poll, Quindy. So we've got auburn, reddish brown, and then medium brown, brunette, and then blue black. Any of those colors would work fine with this skin tone. Although auburn makes a little less sense, but if we just go reddish brown, if we went more on the reddish brown side, less on the red side, we could do it. Redheads seldom tan like this, so but it doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means we'll probably err more toward the reddish brown. But yes, we can. So those are our three choices. Blue black is going to be kind of, I don't know, it's all right. It's a neutral. It's not really choosing a color. But the blue highlights will give us a little bit of feedback. Essentially choosing black hair gives you like a wide open field for what to do with your other colors, because it's still neutral. So then all you've done is like choose neutrals for the model so far, so which is not a bad thing. It gives you more options. It's just it doesn't give us anything to work from as far as choosing our coat, so we're back at square one. Just experimenting with these highlights to see if I can get them to go in a way that I like. Building kind of muted skin tone highlights on this side. I still want it to be dark, but I want a little bit of highlight. Doug, the new busts are not released yet. They're from Bones 5. This one was a ReaperCon special. We're hoping that they'll bring it back in, but I don't have any news on that right now. So this one is sold out. Yeah, this is limited edition. Okay, choose your hair colors, folks. Yeah, since it has an actual number, I keep hoping that they'll bring it back for a limited run, because this is a good bust. Yeah, but the Bones 5 stuff... Oh, wow, that was a short pull. But everybody wants brown. All right, cool. Medium brown wins. But yeah, when the Bones stuff finally releases, then we'll have more busts in the line, Doug. All right, so I'm liking this a little bit more on the other side now. I want just a little bit of light. This messing around with cooler highlights on the shadow side of the face is new to me. It's something I'm trying to work on. It's something that more realistic portraiture artists would do. So I am experimenting with it. So that's why I'm mucking around a lot and seeing what looks better. But there we've got a bit of highlight. It's just colder. I'm going to test this. Because I want a little bit. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. We'll see. I feel like my shadow is too sharp down there on the chin, so I'm going to bring it back. All right, so we're going to go with brown. We're going to go with a brunette. And Ara, do you remember Juliana's hair? The herbalist that I did, where I did that warm, rich brown that it came up as kind of sun-streaked because it had the gold highlights, but it was still a brown hair. Vaguely? Okay. Is that what you're thinking? Kind of like, do you want, when you mentioned not going up to blonde, just you don't want it to go too light? So brown hair definitely does highlight golden. Less blonde streaks. All right. Cool. Alrighty. That's a little better. I just had too hard of a shadow there and nothing else was casting a hard shadow, so... Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting hair color, Twisted Emma. We could try that. Want a little bit more highlight here on the upper lip as well. Remember that you get a lot of highlight coming down here. She does have a bit of a smile, so she's got a little indent here, so you're not going to get a super smooth. Yeah, on a face that's expressionless, you're going to see pretty much this highlight go all the way down to that upper lip. But when you've got a smile, then you've got that crease in the face, and that's going to interrupt that. So I was blonde when I was a kid. And now I'm like, people still call me blonde, which always annoyed me. I always felt that I had light brown hair, but... Now as I get older and silver out, it goes more blondie. So I'm very gently just highlighting these areas. And I won't connect them up because of that crease, but I'll definitely like kind of make a blended line in there. Just stretch a little bit here. We are almost done. So we got a layer of highlight on. We're moving along. She definitely, everything now, this is the thing with busts. You spend a lot of time for less reward when you start fine-tuning highlights. We definitely have gotten some highlights though on the other side of her face now. We mixed a highlight color. We're bringing up her skin tone a little bit more. So, and I'm going cautiously because the face is like the most important part of a bust. It's the whole point. So I may go a lot faster on other parts of this model, but to get the face like just right, I'll spend quite a bit of time. One thing I am going to do is take the red color that I mixed and do the eye. The lower lid of the eye always has red. It probably even should have a little bit more red than that. Boop. Is this Luca Day, Quindy? Is he lying in wait? When it's Luca Day, I have to be good and not run over. Yes and yes. All right, let me just get a little bit more of a pink here. It's going to look a little artificial until we get in there with highlights. But if you look at your own eyes, you'll see that the lower lid definitely has a pink tone to it. So that's what I'm kind of popping in here. I don't want it to be overwhelmingly pink. You don't want her to look like she's been crying. If you put a lot of red color there, you will get that effect. Make it look like the bust has recently gotten bad news, but get a little bit of pink in there. Alrighty, what we did today, we made very little progress, but we mixed up a lot of interesting colors, including my new kind of blue cool shadow that I worked into the skin tone in a lot of areas. I'm actually really liking how this side is coming up with that cooler highlights too. We did a warm highlight. We fixed a ding in the ear and started bringing out the details over there. So we'll have to work with the highlights a little more next time. But yeah, she's she's progressing. You can see that she's being more refined. Her details are coming out more sharp, and we'll probably work on the eyes next time. We'll see how much more skin I decide to do next time. Gotcha. So there. But yes, I am going to be back tomorrow, and then I'm off Friday. So tomorrow we're going to be back on Darius, the blue. So tomorrow we will be doing this guy. We did his book last time, which turned out really well. And yeah, so we'll probably be working on his fabric, I'm thinking. That's kind of what I feel like working on. Maybe we'll do some of the trim, like I need to figure out the trim on his sleeves and stuff, which will probably be gold. But yeah, he's coming right along. So no shows on Friday. Yes. Right, and I'll be on in the morning. Okie dokie, folks. I hope you enjoyed today. I'm liking working on a bust on stream. And remember, even if you don't own this bust, all of the techniques I'm showing here are applicable pretty much to any bust. Although if you don't have a hat on your bust, then obviously you would not need to do the heavy shadow on the one side of the face. But yes, thank you everybody, and I hope that you have a lovely day. Yeah, happy holidays. For those of you who are taking a break from streams and we won't see you for the next few days, have a great one. Remember, I am off all next week. All next week I'm going to be with my family traveling out of town. So I will not be on next week unless they decide to do an Ann marathon, a past Ann marathon. Alrighty, have fun everybody. Bye-bye.